Bill Jones, and welcome to VYPE TV, a show that highlights local athletes, their schools, and their communities. On today's show, LeBrian Nash represented Texas this week at the national level. We'll tell you how he fared against the nation's best high school basketball players. Earlier this week, state basketball champions from Irving MacArthur stopped by to talk to our own Gina Miller about their historic season. See how this local hockey fight got out of control. We'll tell you who the teams were and how their communities are reacting. This week, we're highlighting the area's softball season. We'll talk about the best teams in North Texas. And finally, David McNabb joins us to talk about some great local coaches who decided to hang up their whistles this week. We begin this week, though, with a local athlete considered one of the nation's best. LeBrian Nash from Dallas Lincoln High School helped his team make it to the regional finals this year, and he was selected to the West team for this year's McDonald's All-American game, an exhibition of the nation's top high school players. But the day before the game, Nash put on quite a show.
Nash over Adonis Thomas.
What a night for LeBrian Nash during the slam dunk contest in Chicago. And yes, the future Oklahoma State Cowboy dons his Oklahoma State Cowboy hat and completes his victory in the slam dunk contest. Nash impressed the crowd as he advanced on a national stage.
It feels good, to have God to bless you with his athleticism and to put on display for the crowd, show them a good time and hopefully make your mark in Chicago.
So on to the main event now. The 34th annual McDonald's All-American game played Wednesday night at Chicago's United Center. Almost 20,000 fans on hand to watch the game. Highest attendance ever for the All-American game. Nash didn't start the game, which had a lot of offense. Did make an appearance about midway of the first half. The West Anthony Davis made the great save in the corner. The pass to Austin Rivers, finding Nash open, and he would jam it, and that was Nash's only score of the game. The game was tied at 25 at that point. Good game all the way to the end. In the first half, Nash had a tough time defending the East James McAdoo, who is headed to North Carolina next year. The East built a 57-44 lead at the half, but the West came out strong in the second half behind that guy James McAdoo, as Nash re-entered the game about midway of the second half and tried to make something happen. Came close to a steal, but missed, and the ball was rifled to McAdoo, who would score again. McAdoo had 17 points on the night and was the game's co-most valuable player. The West can't keep up. East wins the game 111-96. And now switching gears to girls basketball. Earlier this week, we welcomed the 5A state champs to our studios here. Gina Miller interviewed them live on TXA 21.
The Irving MacArthur girls basketball team beat Georgetown High 74-51 to win the girls 5A state championship this year, and they are in the house tonight. Ooh. The Irving MacArthur girls. Congratulations. Head coach Susie Olschlegel actually went to Baylor University, so I have to ask who you're cheering for tomorrow night. Dumbest question you'll have all night.
I'm neutral.
Oh, come on. Something tells me a former player on the team, you're rooting for the Baylor Bears tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about your championship run, because it was a season in which you guys were so dominant, coming off a good season last year. At what point during the year, though, this season, did you realize this was a really special team?
Well, we realized it early in the season. With all these girls coming back, from last season, how they gelled together in the spring and in the summertime. But what's so funny? Anyway, we just felt like we knew all along that it was going to be a magical year for us.
You had 5 seniors returning from last year's squad.
Yes.
So and especially considering how last year ended when you had Odyssey Sims, who's a former Whataburger All-Star, by the way. You had Odyssey Sims get injured, her season end in the regional playoffs. Was this an extra motivated team coming into the season, considering the veteran experience you had?
What do you think, girls?
Yeah!
It was extra. When that happened, we went back in the locker room, and that's when they made that decision that was not going to keep us down the next year. As a matter of fact, Alexis was one of the ones that says, hey, we just got to play harder. We got to work harder. So that's exactly what they did. They started playing in the spring and in the summer, and they achieved their goal this season.
And here you are. And Alexis Jones is a junior guard for Irving MacArthur, who was the tournament MVP. She had a triple-double in the championship game, almost a triple-double in the semifinal game. Big-time players step up in big-time games, and you're doing it. You're doing it. You were one of the teams. She's like, yeah, I'm doing it. You're one of the team leaders on this team this year, both on and off the court, I'm assuming. Was that a role that you sort of embraced?
No, not really.
How come?
I don't know.
Let's talk to Monique. Where's Monique? Monique's over here. There we go. Let's talk to Monique over here. When did you know? Coach said this team was a special team going in from the very day one of the season. You're a senior on this squad. You're probably that team leader we're all talking about right now, Alexis. When did you know this team had the championship punch?
As soon as Icy got hurt, it was like, gotta get it, we gotta get it. Because, we had to do it,
Now, I know you guys really celebrated. You had a pep rally at the school, a parade in the school, then you had a parade in the city on March 11th. How cool was that? Awesome. Was it the best thing? Now, here's the trophy right here. Let's hoist this bad boy up right here. 2011 Girls State Champs. Now, I heard that there is also a special dance these girls do, especially one young player. Anderson, you were one of the state tournament, all state tournament players, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now she's got a nickname, Boquiqui. A word I never thought I would say. So you know what? Now this is your opportunity right now. Show us the dance that inspired the team.
Video on BET.
If there's one thing I've learned about this team is that you girls have a lot of fun and you like to have fun. Yeah, so what's up next for the encore? Because you have 3 returning juniors who will return as seniors next year, correct?
4 returners, and we have 7 veterans coming back.
Wow.
So 7 veterans, 4 returning starters. So we're excited about this next season. And the AAU coach, or the coach is coaching them. He's already got them out there on the floor working with them.
There you go. It's year-round sport, and you guys are playing well year-round, too. Thank you, ladies, for coming in, and I appreciate it. Congratulations, Irving MacArthur.
Congratulations to the Lady Cardinals of Irving MacArthur. They just might do it again next year with Alexis Jones coming back. The state soccer playoffs have begun. 5A schools are in the second round. 4A schools are already playing third-round games. Dozens of North Texas teams still in the hunt for a state title. In boys Class 5A, that includes the number 2 team in the nation. According to ESPN, Southlake Carroll, number 21 Plano, also alive in the tournament. In 4A, the number 5 team, Frisco Wakeland, continues its quest. On the girls' side, Class 5A includes some of the nation's best teams. Number 2, McKinney Boyd. Number 12, Coppell. Number 20, Hebron. Number 24, Flower Mound Marcus. And 25, Southlake Carroll came into Friday's game still alive in the playoffs. State finals for boys and girls set for Saturday, April 16th. Coming up next on VYPE TV, it's the fight that has a lot of people talking. Many say it was too violent, even for the pros, but this was a North Texas high school hockey game. Find out what caused it, and we highlight some of the best softball teams in our region. That and more as VYPE TV continues. There was some positive and negative local hockey news this week. First, the good news. North Texas was represented by 2 teams in the national tournament, Plano West and Southlake Carroll. Plano West played 3 games, did not advance out of their pool in Chicago. They won their first game against a team from New York, lost their next 2 to finish their season. The Dragons fared much better. In fact, Southlake Carroll was unbeaten going into the championship game on Sunday. They advanced all the way to the national championship game against New Trier from Illinois. That game was played last Sunday in Chicago. Unfortunately, the Dragons did not win that game, but they can boast about being the number 2 team in the nation. What an accomplishment. And joining us now to talk about Southlake Carroll, Plano West, and more hockey, Tim Polzer, editor-in-chief for VYPE magazine. Tim, I had an opportunity. I'd even watched online that national championship game on Sunday morning as Southlake Carroll took on the defending national champion, New Trier, Illinois, and had them right up against the ropes there. New Trier scored a goal with a 5-on-3 advantage with 1 second left in the second period to snap a scoreless deadlock, and really says a lot about hockey in the state of Texas that a team from North Texas can advance all the way to the national championship game.
Absolutely. It seems like only yesterday that there really high school hockey, there was no high school hockey in Texas. The Stars came down, opened up a lot of Stars centers. A lot of kids got involved. Carroll this year had a great season, great regular season, they had a great national tournament. But just playoff hockey is one of the most exciting things, whether it's pros or high school.
Yep. And this is, by the way, footage from the state championship game at the gold level here locally. And that's Plano West actually defeating South Lake Carroll for the state championship. It was a best 2 out of 3, and they won that series 2-0. Both these teams then advanced to the national tournament. And as we mentioned, Plano West got knocked out before or in pool play. And then South Lake Carroll able to advance to the championship game in hockey country up there in Chicago.
Right, and Plano West really came out of the middle of the pack when it came to that state championship game and upset Carroll. Carroll's got some great players. Plano West has some great players. You see those two programs high in the standings almost every year.
All right, now let's move on to the video. That is a lot of people across North Texas talking. Around the country, they're talking about it, too. A big brawl between two high school club hockey teams that ended with one player seriously injured. Bodies, hockey sticks, and fists were flying at the silver level state championship hockey game last week. And instead of celebrating a win, North Texas players are regretting their actions. Here's TXA 21's Carol Cavazos.
The state championship hockey game ended with less than championship behavior. It turned into an all-out brawl between the two high schools, Keller and Arlington Martin.
The ending ruined it, to be honest with you. It ruined what was a great weekend. The story should be about Keller winning the state title and not about this. One
of his players, Jeff Sorrell, who left the bench and hit another player, ended up with a broken jaw on this hit.
Everybody's held accountable for what happened. You know, it's not like everyone's just going to walk away from this.
But Coach Greco may actually end up serving Sorrell's likely suspension next season because Sorrell is a graduating senior.
So yeah, I would have to serve the suspension.
Meantime, other adults are making nice. The presidents of the two hockey clubs involved in the fight.
Chuck and I met officially just a few minutes ago, and we've been talking about trying to reconcile and get beyond this incident.
That starts with some good communication between him and I that started tonight.
They're just going to keep doing it unless somebody steps in and says something.
Child psychologists say other adults should be held accountable too.
Parents have to step in though. They must say that this is not permitted, especially in a youth sport. It's ridiculous.
The match penalty committee is the group that decides what happens to the players involved in these kinds of fights. Their next meeting is scheduled for April 5th. If they can gather all the information, and there is a lot of information to be gathered on this, they'll move forward with the hearing. And back with us to discuss the situation is Tim Polzer. I think the most important thing to point out here, this is club hockey. These are not school-sanctioned teams.
That's right. I wouldn't be surprised if school officials do look into it just to check with the clubs and discuss the situation, how it can be made better, because they do lend their logos and their students. But nobody feels good about this, from the parents on to the players and the clubs. Hockey's taken a temporary black eye, especially with the videos out there. But, don't forget that we also occasionally have a football fight. We have a basketball fight at the high school level. And fortunately, we don't have many. So
that's the thing. You don't see very many at all in UIL-sanctioned events. And I think it's a credit to the administrators and perhaps at the club level. That's whether it's hockey, basketball, whatever the sport might be, they got to take a closer look at being able to take care of situations like this.
They do, and that's how these sports continue. That's why you don't see these very often. And so the system is working in most cases, and I'm sure that this will be reviewed to make sure that how can we improve the system and keep this from ever happening again.
All right, a quick update in baseball news. Few local teams ranked in the latest state coaches poll. In Class 5A, South Lake Carroll ranked 9th in the state. In 4A, Highland Park is ranked number 1 in the state. They're also ranked 25th in the nation in the latest Max Preps list. And on Tuesday, they beat Rockwall Heath in a district matchup, a 7th-inning walk-off win for them. Frisco and Carrollton Creekview met on Wednesday in a District 9 4A game. Creekview achieved a slight upset in that one with a solid 7-3 win. With about a month before softball playoffs begin, each game is becoming more crucial as district play heats up. In the latest Texas rankings, Plano is ranked second. They've had 7 wins against ranked teams this year. Flower Mound Marcus is ranked 5th. Flower Mound High is 9th with wins recently against Plano East and Plano West. Keller is 11th, Plano East 12th. South Grand Prairie is 19th, Denton Guyer 20th, and Plano West 25th. The latest 4A list includes Frisco, Wakeland, Royce City, and Rockwall. And with more on softball, let's bring in Tim Polzer again, and we actually have some footage of the Rockwall taking on Richardson Pierce. Rockwall, one of the up-and-coming teams in the area, and I was doing some research, Tim, on this Rockwall team. They've got 5 players hitting 400 or better. They can hit the softball.
That's pretty good for fast pitch softball too. Rockwall is one of those districts and one of those schools that programs are deep throughout success. And I'm keeping my eye on 8-5A and 7-5A. You saw right there were 5 teams from 8-5A in the top 25. A couple of teams from 7-5A. We've had some epic games between the Plano schools, and Hebron played in the state tournament last year. So that's really where some of your best action is. But so some really great walk-off games in softball and baseball this year. So they're really revving up for the playoffs.
And as you alluded to, if you've got a strong pitcher, you can usually go far in softball. Lacey Holcomb is that pitcher for Rockwall, as she not only hits .435 at the plate, she's 10-2 with a 180 earned run average, and one of the reasons Rockwall was able to defeat Richardson Pierce 13-0 the other day. But here's the other thing about VYPE TV and VYPE Magazine and the website as well. You give coverage to all the sports.
We do. We make sure that we have the girls and the boys coverage. There's no sport that we will not post on our website. The website is great for getting some quick information up there, covering all the sports. Feel free to email me. Feel free to send me any photos and things like that, because that website and that magazine gives us really a portal to get your photos and your news out on your kids.
All right, Tim, we appreciate it as usual. And coming up next here on VYPE TV, a few local coaches have ended their careers this week. David McNabb will join us for a look back at their success and legacies. Welcome back to VYPE TV. David McNabb, author of the weekly McNabb Report, joins us as usual. And this week we've got a lot to discuss. Right off the top, I want you to talk about your website, which has been around for a while, theoldcoach.com.
Yeah, theoldcoach.com is part of the Rivals Network, and it covers high school football around the state. We've already got spring previews going. We cover camps that are going on now. So there's tons of football going on during the off season that we cover.
We've got a lot of coaching news to talk about. First off, some sad news. Fort Worth Trimble Tech High School is mourning the loss of a coach. 51-year-old Anthony Slim Wilson died last week. Fort Worth ISD tells us Wilson had heart disease, collapsed, and could not be revived. For the past 6 years, he helped coach JV and varsity boys basketball at Trimble Tech. This season, the team reached the regional playoff game in Class 4A. So, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the Wilson family and the entire Trimble Tech athletic family. They had a great season in basketball at Trimble Tech High School in Fort Worth. A couple of coaches are hanging it up. And let's start with Garland Lakeview's basketball coach, Tony Malden, who has decided to retire. Of course, Lakeview Centennial made it all the way to the state championship game, state tournament for the 2nd straight year. He had National Coach of the Year honors, and he's hanging it up at age 62.
Yeah, and Coach Malden is a great story on, coming to Lakeview several years ago after he coached in West Texas, coached in junior college. But and it was a great hire by Homer Johnson, the Garland ISD athletic director, that Tony came in and basically put college schemes and expectations into Lakeview and showed the kids can adapt to that.
Yeah, and a couple of players moving on to D1 college basketball. Tony Malden retires, and now so does Dallas Carter football coach Alan Wilson. Had 2 state championships in his career back at Paris, and John Tyler, and he's decided to hang it up too.
He's decided to hang it up. I did a story for our preseason football magazine last year, the top 10 most influential people in Texas high school football, and Coach Wilson was one. And it was based over his career. You know, you see people now wearing specialized jerseys. Well, he started that way back at Paris, where if the kids made the playoffs, he'd get them a different color jersey. Because he was at a 5A school, it really got to be well known at Tyler with the Cujo.
Yeah, that's right.
And also, he influences other people. Steve Lineweaver at Trinity talks a lot about how he talked to Coach Wilson when Lineweaver was at Commerce about how to get programs where the kids had summer jobs, they worked multiple sports, they weren't in high-tech, you know, position-specific off-season programs, how to run that kind of team. And Coach Wilson really did a great job on that.
Of course, this is Final Four weekend. In the women's Final Four, Texas A&M has advanced to the national semifinals, and there are some local products that help them advance. In fact, in their big win in the Elite Eight over Baylor at the American Airlines Center on Tuesday night, it was DeSoto's Sydney Carter playing the game of her life with 22 points.
Yeah, and that was a great game to be in Dallas, and it reminded me of the old Barnhill South days when Arkansas used to come in and, you know, take over Reunion Arena. It was a great atmosphere, and it's very fitting because Gary Blair, the A&M coach, you know, grew the South Oak Cliff program, which has sort of evolved into the DeSoto program where Sydney Carter comes from.
Yep, Gary Blair, who used to be at South Oak Cliff. David McNabb, we appreciate it as usual, and good luck to the Aggies as they play in the Final Four. And VYPE TV continues in a moment. This weekend, catch your local pro teams here on TXA 21, 2:30 this afternoon. The Stars continue to fight for a playoff spot when they battle the Kings in Los Angeles. Then tonight at 9 o'clock, watch the Mavs take on Portland. And tomorrow at 7:30, the Mavs and Trailblazers meet again. That's all this weekend here on TXA 21. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be back next week at 10:30 to bring you the best stories in North Texas high school sports. We leave you today with more of Dallas Lincoln's LeBrian Nash and his winning dunks in Chicago. Have a great weekend.